today's live webinar on challenges faced in the field of research due to COVID-19 lockdown. I would like to introduce today's speakers. We have Mr. Srikanth Athavale and Mr. Vineet Ketan amongst us. Mr. Srikanth is the founder and principal analyst, Infinium Global Research and Consulting Solutions. He is an MBA Marketing from Mysore University. He is holding postgraduate certificate in marketing, University of Wales, Newport, UK. He has 10 years of industry experience and have worked with companies such as Apple Incorporation, HCL Technologies, and McDonald's, UK. He has more than 7 years of experience in market research and consulting. He started Infinium Global Research in 2017. The company operates in syndicate studies and customized research solutions to the companies and universities across the world. Mr. Srikanth, we welcome you in today's session.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Our second speaker present with us is Mr. Vineet Ketan. Mr. Vineet is a young Indian entrepreneur and founder of two of the fastest growing market research firms. From an initial investment of 14 lakhs to a 50 crore evaluation, enabling industry giants and industry professionals to resolve complex issues through insight, information, and data derived from diligent research. He is the co-founder and MD of One Starts Research and Media Private Limited and Wise Guy Research Consultants Private Limited. He is PGDM Marketing from MIT School of Business. Sir, we welcome you and we would love to hear from both of you. Students, you can write your, thank you, sir. Students, you can write your questions in chat box during the session and they will be answered in the end.
Well, I would like to start the discussion with Mr. Srikanth. Mr. Srikanth, is social distancing during COVID-19 giving a reshaped research approach by more of planning and less of action? What's your view on this?
Yes, of course. I mean, due to COVID-19, I've seen a lot of people are taking precautions. There have been restrictions imposed on social gathering, people meeting each other. And this has created a lot of psychological changes in the people also. So when the research has to be conducted, especially the primary research, it becomes difficult to meet people personally and you have to maintain certain distance. So it is obviously shaping up how the primary research is being conducted, and it would need more of a planning in future because we have to use technology to get a lot of data and information. Technologies such as CAPI or you can say telephonic interviews, these have to be made use of. You can also use social platforms such as Facebook. Facebook has started its new feature, like you can have a video conferencing call with 50 odd people. You can now use WhatsApp for video calling, and also there is a lot of technology that's coming up to that can be used to collect data and collect the information. So in order to get that done, you have to do a lot of planning because you have to set up a call with the person who is going to be your respondent, and also you have to make sure that the things are done on a proper time, because it is very important to collect the right information at the right time. But when it comes to the rural sectors, like for industries such as agriculture or you can say food industry, sometimes we need to collect data from the rural part of the world or a rural part of this country where the technology is not reached so much. So in such cases, you have to have a plan B and you have to maintain a certain distance with the respondent. When you have to collect the data, the traveling restrictions are there as of now, but yeah, going forward, the restrictions may be or will be lifted. So when you interact with the person who is from the rural part of the country, you will have to make sure you take that person with confidence. And as I said, the data, as it is said, the information collected on the primary may be biased. So it definitely need to have a plan B for it. So yeah, in a conclusion, I can say COVID-19 is actually giving a reshape to the research approaches to be used in future.
Well said. I will also like now to know the view of Mr. Vineet Ketan on this.
Yeah. So I feel that we are living in a very disruptive situation. The market is disrupting due to COVID-19. It's not because of any technology. But I won't say that market research industry has come to a standstill. There is lots and lots of action that is going on. We are seeing so many disruption going on in different industries. And the entire viewpoint of collecting primary or secondary data is changing day by day. As we can see, new platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Duo, all these new technologies extensively being used across industries in order to interact with people, as we are doing right now. So this webinar, it is happening just because of COVID-19. So I'm an optimistic person. I always see optimism in everything. So I feel that COVID-19 will bring far more action than what we were seeing earlier in context to market research. So we would be getting far more opportunities now, because every industry would be looking for something or the another to take a lead from their competition. So that's what I have to say on this.
Okay, sir. I would like to ask a question to you, Mr. Vineet. How can qualitative researchers will collect data during social distancing? Because qualitative researches primarily depends on face-to-face interaction for data collection through focus group, interviews, and field work. So what is your view on it?
So, ma'am, whatever you are saying it is very true that qualitative research is done is done by face-to-face interviews. But if you see in last 5 years, the shape of qualitative research is changing across globe. So we can see companies like Kantar, companies like BCG, McKinsey, EY, all these, they are shifting their focus from the conventional primary research that they used to do. So the way the interaction is being done now, it is more towards the social behavior, the data that is collected directly through social behavior of people. These companies are using different apps in order to understand how the market is reacting instead of directly face-to-face interaction. So what happens when we directly interact with the respondents? There are multiple times wherein the answers that we get are very much sugar-coated, or it is biased. They do not tend to speak what the real situation they are facing. So definitely, there would be difficulty due to COVID-19. I won't deny that, but yes, the industries would be taking a totally different methodology to collect the same data. That's what I feel.
Okay, yeah, that was very informative, but I would like to have views of Mr. Shrikant as well. What do you say about it?
Yeah, sure. Due to this COVID-19, and the social distancing measures, qualitative research has certainly become an issue. But let me get you into the research methodologies that we generally or typically use when we conduct the research. There are two types of methodologies. One is primary research methodology and the secondary research methodology. As most of you must be aware of it, as that there is subject of business research methodology. However, the primary research has been defined as the interviews that are conducted, the questionnaire has been circulated, you speak face to face. But now the scope of primary research is augmenting and it's changing day by day, because primary information is now being collected from the applications that are being used by the people. There are certain social media hashtags being considered as the source of primary information. So I would say we can use a lot of technology in conducting your interviews, such as Zoom Meet, or you can say Google Hangout. You can also use WhatsApp features. So these are the new techniques that can be used for collection of primary data. At the same time, most of the companies are now focusing more on collection of the data on the user behavior perspective. as said by Vinit, people can give biased answers. They can be sugar coated. There are many people who don't want to speak the truth when it comes to the research conducted on the healthcare aspects. When it is about their health, when it is about their illnesses, these are very personal issues that people may not want to share. However, if you look at the applications such as Practo or some medicinal applications, you'll see that people are they are opening up and they are giving their information on such platforms. This becomes an information source, especially a primary information source, because it is not published anywhere. The information that is published in the public domain may be called as secondary information. However, these applications are not publishing their data, and this is readily available for the industry. Now, this is about the industry. When we speak about the institutional research, institutions such as university or government organizations, they are not so keen on using technology. If I look at the Indian perspective, they're not so keen on using technology to collect the data. They are actually believing in the conventional methodologies. They would want their representatives to go to the field, speak to people one-on-one. They conduct surveys one-on-one. So their approach might not change to the larger extent, but yes, they will also be thinking about how can we have a new methodology of collection of data. For example, collection of data about education system, or you can say the number of educated people in families. If it is about census, then obviously it is one-to-one. They have to go to the public, they have to speak to them, they have to ask them questions and get the answers done there. So in such cases, there may not be much change. However, the government institutions may also be thinking about having a different methodology of collection of data. Maybe Aadhaar-based data can be collected. So these things may occur in future.
Yeah, and I can talk about this case that recently our organization had done, wherein we had to collect data about the best hair color, that is best hair color product that is being used in India. So the company wanted us to do a thorough survey in order to understand which is the most popular hair color that is being used in Indian market. And the methodology that was used in drawing the result for this particular study, it was very unconventional, wherein we were not doing primaries in order to understand this. What we did was, we took help of analytics company, and we ran a script on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, as well as Twitter, in order to understand the hashtags that were trending on XYZ hair color. So by analyzing millions and millions of data through big data, we came to a conclusion that ombre was the color that was widely used across Indian market. So that is also a different way of doing the same primary research, instead of doing the conventional way. This is the new disruptive way that most of the industries are taking up right now.
Well, over to you, Mr. Vinit Ketan.
Yeah.
As we know, long-term research projects face unprecedented break in data gathering, and there is widespread uncertainty about how long grants and other funding sources will be available. We all understand that in this scenario, field research seems to have come to almost an abrupt stoppage. Beyond the cloud, if you look at beyond the cloud of COVID-19 and uncertainty obscuring research planning, the slowdown of data collection means a research work misses out entirely on new information and discoveries. It implies that an irreversible loss to research organizations. Mr. Vinit, what is your stand on this?
So when we talk about long-term research projects, so we are talking about consulting projects majorly, and we need to bifurcate the long-term projects under two places, wherein one we can talk about the government and one we can talk about the non-government organizations like private organizations. So the methods that are used in both the cases are very different. When we talk about government, yes, it's very orthodox, the thought processes that are being used so far. I'm not saying that it is not going to disrupt. Yes, it is. But when we talk about countries like India, still we are very much dependent on the conventional way of data mining, wherein it is very meticulous. You have to do primaries, you have to visit villages, you have to visit towns in order to understand each and every parameter to get the data. But if we talk about long-term projects that BCG or Gartners are doing, it's very different. As there was recently a statement given by Coca-Cola that I am ready to make mistake than to wait. So this is the thought process that most of the entrepreneurs, most of the worldwide global giants are having, wherein though it is long-term project, but then also the methodology can be very different, wherein, as Shrikant was saying, apps can be used in order to collect data. Government apps can be used in order to understand how the social behavior of people are in small or big cities. If we talk about Grofers, if we talk about Zomato, if we talk about Uber, if we talk about Ola, if we talk about any social mediums that you are using or any app that you are using, it is collecting data. If we talk about Google Analytics, it has got information about anything that you are searching on Google. They are very much aware that what is the problem areas that India is facing, what is the biggest question that India is typing right now. So there are so many data points that you can see across industries, across different apps and websites that are collecting, and you can use all these informations in order to pull in the data. Then you can use artificial intelligence or big data in order to crunch the numbers and come to a conclusion. So these are the formats that can be used, I would say.
Very informative. I'd also like to know the views of Mr. Shrikant Athawale on this.
Yeah, sure. I always believe, there is always a silver lining. So even if there is unprecedented change in the budgetary aspects, there would be a lot of changes in the planning and actions, how the information would be collected for the long-term projects. The long-term research projects are basically very much cost intensive projects, wherein it is not just the financial cost, there's a cost of time and cost of resources involved in long-term projects. So it definitely is a big task when it comes to collection of data due to this COVID-19. However, in the long run, I would say there would be a lot of use of technology. A lot of information can be collected through various applications. Yes, in order to survive in these situations, the leadership will play an important role. The leadership in terms, I do not mean the ministers, but yeah, the leadership coming from people, the leadership coming from organizations, the people who are taking care of the research things. So you can also say the mentors who are conducting the research, their role will play an important aspect when it comes to collection of data for the long-term research projects. You will see a lot of crunches in terms of budget as of now. However, when it comes to the institutional research, there is always a backup from the government. The government may hold on, information collection for some time. However, once this situation gets normal, they will have to provide funding to these research projects, because no one can stop the research that is fundamental to the organizations or fundamental to the government, because they have to publish their reports, they have to understand the demographics of the country, and they have to make certain plans. As we have Planning Commission, as we have Niti Aayog, they have to collect data on a regular basis, and their projects are pretty much long-term in nature. For companies and for industries, when we have to collect data for the long-term projects, yes, most of the companies use approach of splitting the data in shorter format. So they would want to go for the projects on a short. They would break the projects on different timelines, maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. That's how, and they would always have a splitting approach to collect the data and interpret, and they'll go step by step. In most of the consulting approaches we have seen, a lot of information is collected based on the secondary information, and then in order to validate that information, we have to go for a primary. So in such cases, the secondary information plays an important role. And at the same time, when we have to collect the insights for the primary research, for example, in the field of energy and mining, we have to do a lot of surveys, seismic surveys, if they have to collect oil, or if they have to extract oil from oil fields. The seismic surveys, they take a lot of time. So here the secondary information that is already been published plays an important role, and that minimizes the efforts to be conducted for the primary research for the long-term projects.
And when it comes to long-term projects, I would say I feel that objective of study is also very important. So if we are doing a long-term project in aerospace defense, the ballgame entirely changes. You do not have that kind of data transparency. The data is very opaque, and you have to. So when we talk about COVID-19, it is a situation wherein it will be delaying, or it would be stopping these projects for till this entire situation gets over or the market opens up. Same is happening with all the industries like education. So education is a very tricky market, wherein if you are planning, you have to plan how the Indian education would be uplifted. If we talk about grassroots upliftment, the poverty or economy, if you have to do a research in order to decrease the poverty, so this would be economical research. It would be related to economics, and definitely when we talk about these COVID-19 situations, these projects would be coming to standstill because they are not the priority at this moment.
Yeah.
Mr. Srikanth, I would like to know what is the COVID-19 impact on healthcare sector research and in essential medical equipment?
Yeah, very interesting. As of now, I would say it's the glorious time for the healthcare industry, because everybody is in a panic situation. Everybody wants to buy medicine. Everybody wants to stay fit. They want to boost their immunities. So it is definitely a good time for healthcare industry. Yes, as far as the research in healthcare industry or essential medical equipment sector is concerned, they will have to do a regular research, and this industry is it's one of the core industries wherein the research is an ongoing process, and their safety measures are very much different from the safety measures taken by other industries. And here the hygiene is given the first and foremost priority. So I actually don't think that COVID-19 will have any sort of impact on the healthcare sector's research, as far as understanding the trends and as far as understanding the market and demand is concerned. They already have a lot of things in the market. Their executives are already in the market. They have estimated the markets beyond next 4 or 5 years. They are using the technologies very effectively. If you speak about companies such as GE Healthcare, Siemens Healthcare, these companies are like 5-6 years beyond what we are thinking now. So I honestly don't think that the COVID-19 may have a significant impact. It might have a smaller impact or something, but it may not have a significant impact on healthcare and the medical equipment industry as such.
Yeah,
so I don't know. There would be a negative impact or no, or not on healthcare industry, but I'm sure that there is a positive impact. Healthcare IT industry is booming, and same is happening with the healthcare equipment industry, because there is a lot of overlapping that is going on, adding on to Srikanth's point. So it's not now, the healthcare is not only restricted to healthcare industry as such. It is also penetrating into other industries like, say, every chemical industry. Now they are producing sanitizers, all these kind of chemicals are being used. So the healthcare is also moving into chemical industry for procuring a lot of chemicals in order to provide sanitizers and other these disinfectants for the market. Apart from that, automobile sector as well as a lot of other industries, they are going for clean room technology. Then they want a lot of equipments to be installed in automobiles so that it can prevent COVID-19, spread of COVID-19 or any kind of virus to the users, the people who would be buying automobiles. So all these things are there, which I feel that it is adding on to this industry. It is increasing the CAGR of the industry, and I feel that healthcare is in a very positive state right now.
Yeah, I would like to just add. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, sir, you please continue. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to few points to this. See, the nature of research being conducted in the healthcare or medical devices industry is totally different from the research methodology used for other industries. When it comes to healthcare industry, a lot of research is done in a controlled environment. For example, the laboratories, or you can say trial rooms. So a lot of research is conducted under controlled environment. So there'll be a lot of precautions. There already a lot of precautions are taken, and they have their set guidelines. So COVID-19 may not have a negative impact on this industry, as said by Vinay. This industry is in boom, and it will see a lot of use of artificial intelligence, and you can say more of Internet of Things in these industries when they have to conduct a lot of researches in future. Yeah, thank you.
I would like to know how can government play a major role of sponsor for budding researchers during this pandemic? So if you can throw a light on it. Mr. Srikanth, if you can.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, government sponsorship always plays an important role when it comes to sponsoring the researchers. And it is not just the government. Currently in the pandemic situation, if you look at the entire market as of now, it is not just the government that is sponsoring. There are certain organizations, for example World Health Organization. There are certain organizations which are a part of NGOs. They are funding the researchers when it comes to the collection of information, when it comes to collection of samples. So they are funding. These companies are, the companies that do not have enough budgetary allocations, but they got something different. They can use the fundings given by these institutions. Large organizations are also sponsoring the research in healthcare segment due to this COVID-19, because everybody's after finding out vaccine. Everybody's like, what type of medicine can be used? What type of combination of drugs can be used? What type of remedies can be given to the people? How can we prevent this COVID-19 outbreak? So the research is focused on the fundamentals now. It is not focused on the exterior parts. Like, nobody wants to understand the trends as of now. Everybody wants to understand how the things can be controlled. So there is a more of a research on finding out the basics or the fundamentals, rather than going for why is this happening. Now, how can this be controlled? When it comes to the research conducted for the government organizations, yes, there has to be funding. These has to be funded by the governments, as they have been doing it since the past. Due to this COVID-19, the priorities have changed. The government may want to focus on something else. So for them, research other than healthcare industry may not be an important aspect. Now, for example, our Ayush department was pretty much engaged in understanding how can we prevent this pandemic, how can we prevent the spread of corona in India. So the Ayush department was totally working along with ICMR, and what they did, they have found that homeopathy can be an important solution on prevention of spread of coronavirus. So they took a lot of information from the homeopathic doctors and their association, and they came up with the conclusion that yes, arsenic album 30 can be used as a prevention measure for prevention of corona. And how can this can be done? This is through boosting up your immunity. So such type of researches would be funded by the government, which have become an important part now.
Yeah, Mr. Vineet, what do you think? What should be the role of government as a sponsor?
So government always plays a very important role when it comes to research and development, because most of the researchers or research institutions, they are always in negative. I would say that researchers don't work for profits. So there are a lot of research institutes. They don't work for profits. Instead, they work for the sheer joy of finding the solution that is there in the society. So when it comes to Indian government, I won't comment. I don't have a lot to say. But across globe, if we talk about developed nations, they are spending huge amount of money into research and development for in different sectors, from aerospace defense to healthcare to food and beverages. On trade maps, I know there are a lot of governments who are spending huge amount of money into developing trade maps. So what would be the right trading route? Which route should be the best possible route wherein the maximum profitability can be attained? Apart from that, as Shrikant was saying, oil and gas, lots and lots of investments are being done. Even when we talk about Indian government, ONGC has got so many projects going on when we talk about oil and gas, wherein they are doing research, they are doing a lot of R&D activities in order to understand that where the oil wells are, or they are analyzing the seismograph in order to understand that where we can find these kind of resources, natural resources. And then privatized sector like Reliance is being provided with this opportunity to expand themselves in these sectors. So recently we have started seeing a collaborative effort of government as well as private sector. So government is doing the research and private sectors are capitalizing onto it. So this is one of great achievements for Indian government, I would say.
It is quite informative, Mr. Vineet. If we talk about how traditional research to manage retail stores and optimizing inventory and production, to manage stock levels and production got affected by this global pandemic. If we talk how supply chain management models could be used to solve the problems associated with it. Mr. Vineet, over to you.
Yeah, so there are a lot of analytics companies that are currently working in finding solution to this. It is one of the brilliant questions that is asked. I would say it is a $1 billion question, Dr. Kuller. If we get answer to this, there would be it is a very profitable situation for so many FMCG companies. So what they are doing is they are trying to map last 50 years situations. So all the situations that the different countries they have faced in these kind of pandemic state or in the state of crisis. So how the market reacted, how the logistic planning had. So what all logistic planning they had taken up in order to find the solution to it. So all these modeling are being they are providing all these modeling into a artificial intelligence programming model, and then they are running it in order to understand what would be the perfect. But when we talk about these situations, these act of God situations like pandemic, it is very hard to understand that how a perfect model can be implemented, because there is the problem is not at one place, wherein the trade routes between two countries or trade routes between two states or trade route between local bodies, all these things are affected. And currently we do not know, after post-COVID, how many trade routes would be active, how many manufacturers, suppliers, retailers, distributors, they would be active, how this entire situation will cope up. So I would say that answering to this particular question, it would be very difficult for me. I don't know if any other expert would be able to do it, but for me, I won't be able to answer this.
I appreciate the
answer. An answer has to be given.
Let's see what Mr. Shrikant has to say on this.
All right. Yeah. When it comes to collection of data from the traditional retail stores, we have been using very conventional approaches like visiting the people, collecting, asking them some questions about the products and stuff. And we have been using coupon system, etc., to collect the data and to analyze. However, due to this pandemic, you have seen there's a big shift in the mentality of people. They go to retail stores and they do panic buy. They would buy a thing that is not even much required as of now. So if I'm going for a shopping, I'll buy for my entire next week. So I'm in this mindset now. So I don't want to give an answer to the research executive who is standing there. And I don't think any retail store is asking any of their representatives to stand there and ask questions to people. So this pandemic has definitely made an impact on how the traditional research has been done in the retail stores. Now, when it comes to optimizing the inventory, it definitely is a challenge. The reason being, there's a big gap between the demand and supply. People are in the panic situation. They want to preserve things for the next month or two, or they don't know when this pandemic is gonna get over. They actually have no idea how the government is gonna plan the situation. Is the government really keen on taking the lockdown off, or what could be the situations? People are not really clear about it. It is not just in India; it's all across the world. If you see the trends in the US, you must have seen there were news that people were going to the retail store and they're buying like anything. The trolleys were filled, and the stores got emptied in no time. So people are in a panic situation, and that they have behaved totally different from they have been behaving earlier. So managing stock levels as such a situation becomes a difficult challenge. However, this can be avoided, or you can say this can be overtaken. How? There is a concept called smart retail. There are things like smart shafts, smart selves. So these concepts can also be used in the future, understanding how how much is the demand for a particular product, wherein we can keep a buffer of essential items, wherein the retail stores can keep, prioritize essential items. I would say semi-essential. It's not a proper English word, but I am not able to get a proper word for it. So essential, or we can say very essential, essential, less essential. So they can be prioritized based on using smart shelf technology. So in future there would be a use of technology, and this pandemic has not just created havoc, it has given up a lot of opportunities also when it comes to the retail stores. And how supply chain management models could be used. I would rather say, rather than sticking to supply chain models, the companies should focus more on value chain models, wherein value chain it covers the entire supply chain. It understands where the value has to be given more, where the more value has to be given. So value chain analysis may be used to understand the situation, and this can be overtaken if another pandemic comes. For example, the Hunter virus, that there's another hanging virus in the world. So if the situation arises in future, so a value chain analysis can be used to understand the problems faced during this particular pandemic, and they can prepare for the next one.
Okay, all right. COVID-19 pandemic has brought a rising trend on health and safety related features to come in cars. Such features are requested especially by vulnerable older groups who prefer using their cars than any other public transport options. So can you suggest as how research can help to develop such COVID-19 specific safeguard features in cars? Mr. Vineet, over to you.
So I feel that when it comes to market research industries, we would be definitely using a lot of go-to-market strategies in order to showcase different companies having their products as better products. But I feel that it is at a very nascent stage, wherein a lot of trials or a lot of health licenses it needs to be checked how feasible it is, and what would be the impact on people using these automobiles. So if we are say introducing a kind of technology wherein it would be cleaning all the entire air that is there, so there are a lot of technologies that are there wherein it purifies the air. So these are the things that can be used. I believe that these would be technologies that would be installed into cars. Then the pricing point needs to be understood. So it would be more towards go-to-market strategy that market research industries would be diving into. I don't feel that apart from that, so installing sanitizers, all these kind of things would be there. Apart from that, I don't think that market research industry would be getting into any other thing when it comes to automobile safety.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Mr. Srikanth, what is your views?
Yeah, obviously. So this is having safety features in automobile and all. it gives me a lot of imaginary situations wherein people are rushing after the companies, like we want to have clean air and we want to have sanitization in our car. There'd be a lot of innovations coming up. People would be like, it's pretty much hypothetical situation, but people would be finding a solution. How can we avoid ourselves from getting infected? So there would be a lot of deep diving by individuals, not by research organizations as such. People would want to find a solution for how can the air purifiers be fitted in automobile, or you can say how can the sanitizing pump can be used, as said by Vinay. But when it comes to installation of a particular product that has to deal with the health of a person, it requires an approval by FDA or maybe any organization that is governing healthcare sector. You need an approval from these sectors, and getting the approvals from these sectors, it is not that easy. So obviously, people will try and say, okay, there is this innovation and that innovation, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, this may not be, in reality,
feasible.
this may not, it may not be feasible. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Mr. Srikanth, I would like to ask you, it seems that now research organizations are more skeptical of social media for data collection and analysis, which is now a dependable option for research during lockdown. Mr. Srikanth, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, social media data has been considered, slightly skeptical earlier. However, due to this lockdown, if you have seen, a majority of the population is on social media. A lot of people are trying to do whatever they can. They are doing recipes, they are doing dances, they are doing the yoga stuff. So people have a lot of time and they are spending it on social media. So now, earlier social media was one of the platforms where you would have seen a lot of information being bifurcated. A lot of information was published as a paid content. People who have been using products were given extra advantage to give a positive or 3-star or above rating for their products. So these tactics were used earlier, and these are also used even today. However, in the current situation, people are giving out their best on the social media, doing whatever best they can do. So as of now, during this pandemic, I'm really sorry, somebody's dog was barking.
Okay, fine. You can continue, Srikanth?
Yeah, sure. So it has become one of the dependable options now, because a lot of information is being shared on the social media. Yes, the companies may want to get a lot of information in terms of the hashtags being used, how what type of recipes have been used by people, what type of ingredients have been searched by them, if at all people are interested in cooking. See, this has given birth to a lot of cooks, this pandemic. So it becomes an opportunity for FMCG companies or food companies to come up with innovative solutions, and they can use social media as a reliable platform as of now.
Mr. Vineet, your stand on this?
So I feel that social media is very important for all the market research companies. We heavily depend on social media in order to understand the user trend. As you've seen that if you would be just talking about something or searching for, say, a flight from Delhi to Pune, so you would be bombarded with a lot of advertisements. You would be getting emails, you would be getting messages that there is a flight for 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees. So how it happens? It's all about the collection of data. So there are so many market research companies that are behind all these things, wherein they are analyzing data, they are analyzing people's behavior in order to understand what they are doing, how they are reacting to a particular ad. We invest a lot of time in order to understand what would be the call to action on any kind of advertisement or any kind of social questionnaire kind of thing if we post on. So if would the user would be interacting with it or not. So social media is extensively used. If we talk if we recently see the case of Cambridge Analytica, you could have understood the level of data that is being collected through social media. So I would be aware about all your preferences, from your clothing to your food to your health problems that you are having, how many kids you have, So what would be your reading preferences? What is your political front? So you support BJP, Congress, which party you support? You are a Democrat or Republican? I understand. So I understand as in from research front, I'm saying. So researchers understand all these things through social media. So there is a designation you are having, the demographics, the economic slab that you are into. So these data are very valuable when it comes to analyzing a particular market and reaching to a solution, research solution.
Well, the most important question I think most of the audience must be waiting to hear: how to prepare researchers for post-COVID-19 periods, Mr. Vineet?
So I feel that currently it's a very right time to understand. If you want to become a researcher, the first thing that you need to do is read a lot about the industries that you love. So there are 11 top industries, I would say, from healthcare, IT, pharma, food and beverages, agriculture. Then you have got chemicals, specialty and organic. Then you have got energy and power, ICT, information communication technology. And then you have got semiconductor, you have got automotive, you have got aerospace, defense, aviation. So there are so many different industries. It's very important for if somebody wants to become researcher to first understand which industry he or she wants to get into, and then start tracking, because this is a perfect time. Everybody is at home, everybody's on their laptops, in front of their phones. They can read about what is happening in their industry, and they can understand that how their industry is moving. What are the disruptions that are going in that particular industry? How many companies are merging, or how many new products are coming into that industry? So these are the key points, I would say. It is a kind of apocalyptic situation. So they'll get to understand how fast industry is changing. They can go through the stock markets of that particular company that is into that industry in order to understand what are the level of dips. So the bullish and bearish graph, it will give you enough understanding in order to understand how the market is channelizing itself, and what would be the period wherein you can see the growth phase. So if you analyze all these stickers that that is provided by the market, I believe that you would be a great researcher within 1.5 years. You would be ready for it.
Well, Shrikant, I would love to hear from you on this. What do you advise our future researchers to be equipped with?
Yeah, they have ample of time as of now, so let them be, at home, be calm, and do not panic about the pandemic as of now. Yeah, they can make use of technology. They can understand the new concepts such as big data. They can study, R model, so that they can use technology in future to in order to collect and analyze the data. So I would rather say that they should focus more on the technology rather than focusing on the conventional methods.
Technology also. What technologies, like SAS, or what other technologies they should be equipped with?
There are multiple technologies. There is SAS, there is R, there is big data, there is Hadoop. I mean, they can learn anything they want to. And as said by Vinay, they need to prioritize in which sector they wish to have their career. When it comes to becoming a researcher, it takes a lot of efforts. And again, there are so many types of researchers. What type of research you want to be? Do you want to be an industry researcher? You want to be an academic researcher? You want to be an institutional researcher? You want to be a healthcare or clinical researcher? So there are so many types of researchers. So the person has to prioritize. He or she needs to understand what are the areas that I want to make my career into. So they can. They have a time. They can let them analyze themselves, and based on the area in which they want to go, they can choose their models, and there are models available in respect to every industry.
Right. And there are so many different researchers as well. So it's not that there is one type of research. You've got syndicate research, you've got consulting, then you've got financial research, then you have got stock market reports making. So then you have got trade maps. So all these different researchers, it is very all these are very different from one another. You cannot say that I can be master of all these different research types. So at least you should be very focused that what you want to choose. Apart from that, I won't say that everybody would be very comfortable learning big data or different analytical models, because see, if you are doing MBA marketing, definitely most of us, when we talk about India, they are not very well groomed with programming languages. And now at this stage, if I say that you have to learn big data, you have to learn Hadoop or any kind of analytical tool, it would be a bit tough. But yes, if they can do it, that would be great. There are companies like Mu Sigma, SG Analytics that are core into analytics. It is a time for artificial intelligence. If you can groom yourself into that, that would be great. But if you cannot, that does not mean that you cannot become researcher. You can. True. So the conventional methods are also there. If you join any market research firm, there would be a lot of programmed languages on which you would be just feeding on data, and rest everything would be done at the back end. So so all these things are there. So it's just to encourage you. So I don't want to discourage you all.
And it's to be honest. Our students must also be having some queries. I will request.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So we'll take questions from our students. Aditya has asked, if we look at the smaller cities, there are not enough research data available for these cities. And people trying to do some research for their business in the cities face problem in gathering primary or secondary data. So what should one follow in order to gather relevant data for their research in these small cities?
So can we take a case? So if he can give us a case, so what kind of data he wants to collect. So it's very important to understand that if there is a market or not. So if there is no market, for example, Zomato cannot work in a very tier 3 city, right? There is no demand for it. So if there is a demand, then we can collect the data. So if there is no demand, if there is no market at all, and it is a new product, so you will have to do hypothesis testing. You will have to test that particular thing with a small, say for example, if you take Pune. So even Pune has got different localities. So you want to launch it in Hadapsar and then test it. So if we talk about Delhi, so there are different places in Delhi. You can test it out there. You'll choose a variable. You'll choose a sample size and see if it is working or not. So it's very important what kind of data the person wants to collect, and then we can boil down to understand that how it can be collected. So I don't agree to this point that in smaller cities it is difficult to collect data. Important is to understand what kind of data has to be collected, and then a methodology can be decided onto it, that how the collection has to be done.
Okay.
Yeah, true.
Next question is from Arushi. How has COVID-19 impacted and disrupted development-oriented projects on the ground and the capacity of local partners to be involved and deliver in collaborative projects?
Oh my God, you need to be a government expertise in this now. All right, so...
can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure.
Pardon me. Yeah.
The question is, how has COVID-19 impacted and disrupted development-oriented projects on the ground and the capacity of local partners to be involved and deliver in collaborative projects?
So the question is, Shrikant, the question is very different. So it's just that I want to understand, Arushi. So is this question related to any particular project you have in mind? You are associated to any particular project wherein you want to ask this question?
No, as such, no specific area has been mentioned.
Okay, so I believe, Shrikant, you are a researcher. It would be great if you could answer this question.
Yeah, that's what I said. You got to be a government expert. See, the government. I mean, yeah, there are so many development projects are on standstill because of this COVID-19. But at the same time, there are certain groups or there are certain projects which have been on hold for so long. So the government is prioritizing finishing these projects. they are taking help from the local bodies, local people, because there is a big issue of migration of laborers from places like Mumbai, Pune, Delhi to their local places. So there is a shortage of labor that is happening, and of course there is a big opportunity for the local people to come up. So the government would want to use Aadhaar-based approach to find out the local laborers who have been part of Manrega or something. They can become their next labor resource. So yeah, this is how they can come up with developing the projects, and the local bodies can be used. I hope I've been able to answer the questions. I'm not a government expertise anyways.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And the next question from Dipanshu. How researchers helped policymakers and the public to stay more informed about coronavirus and how to respond to the emergency?
So Dipanshu, if I have to answer this question, so we need to understand that we are not into this. So when we talk about these kind of research, it is more towards the government bodies. They have what IS officers who are making the policymakers who are into this, who are understanding different data points in order to come to a conclusion or provide a solution to the society. So we are the private market research players, me and Shrikant, and I believe that answering to this question, so we don't have to do anything with this. So we don't help the government in. So if I have to talk about me, my organization does not help government in formulation of policies. Yeah.
Okay, so we are taking the last question. Nikhil Upadhyay, he is asking, will researchers be developing new methodologies and techniques to understand the way audiences use social media channels, their behaviors and conversations on those channels?
Yes, of course. I mean, research is an ongoing process. It's ever evolving process. If you look at the research that has been done like 10 years ago, it is almost different from what we're doing now. We are using various methodologies. We're using various models to collect the data, and the research has grown to a level that it has become such a wide spectrum. So obviously it requires a lot of different techniques to collect the data, and the data is not just limited to one particular type of data. You can classify them as primary or secondary data. However, when you go to the granularity of the data, it becomes very difficult to categorize. So obviously there will be new technologies coming up, there will be new techniques coming up. A researcher himself has to be he has to predict what is going to be the next technology, or what new technique can be used. So researchers have to be on their toes when it comes to the use of social media and all.
With every problem that we get, we'll have to, generally our researchers, they go for a different kind of problem solving method. So it is always constantly evolving. With every question, every project that we get, it evolves. You cannot find the solution to one problem with a defined problem solving method.
Okay, thank you so much. So now I would like to invite Professor Nikhil Singh to say a few words as vote of thanks to our honorable speakers. Professor Nikhil Singh, over to you.
Hi. Hi everyone, good evening.
Good evening.
That was an incredible session, Mr. Vineet and Mr. Shrikant. A lovely session, very engaging.
Thank you.
Very powerful. Yeah. So thank you so much for taking out time to enlighten our students, our next generation leaders, about the new and ongoing challenges in the research industry, and also the unconventional yet open solutions we can apply to tackle them. The COVID-19 crisis has deeply affected the way that organizations function, and we are learning how to work remotely. In fact, our college is also, fully functional, despite the fact that universities are closed. You can see the audience here. All of us are present here. Thanks to both of you that we have learned about how top companies in the world across industries are adopting different measures during this lockdown to continue the valuable research, which is the backbone of top business ideas. I thank both of you for sharing your expertise and experience with us today to develop our students with real-life examples from the industry. And I sincerely hope and I request you that both of you should come back to do more such impactful sessions in this domain that will not only help our students gain knowledge, but help them become better MBAs in this unprecedented times. Thank you so much, both of you.
Most welcome.
ମୁଁ ତ କହିଲି କି ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ମୁଁ କଣ୍ଟାକ୍ଟ କରୁଛି ମୋ ତରଫରୁ
Well, thank you to all both speakers. Thank you all of you. Thank you audience for joining us. And Srikanth and Mr. Vineet, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, speakers, Mr. Vineet and Mr. Srikanth.
Thank you.
And thank you all the audiences for staying with us. And I'm sure it was a in fact, very interesting and very informative for our students. They have learned a lot.
Great. I would just want to say few words.
Please.
First of all, thank you, Kullar sir, for giving us this chance. And I'm personally thankful to you because you have been my mentor during my MBA days. And because of you, I'm somewhere, in this research industry. I would appreciate if I could get a feedback from the audience that have been part of this particular session. If they,
we'll provide you. We'll definitely provide that. And it's always nice to see our own products doing so well in their career.
Great.
And especially for faculty, it's a great achievement when we look at students like you and Vinny doing so well in their career. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch, and soon we'll give you the feedback as well.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.